you get talk, and then you get talk that get results. So I'm not saying anything is wrong with talking. Something is wrong with the talking that's just talking.
Got you. So Webbo, maybe what needs to happen is that, you know, what can be done for talking or talk to get results. You know, then it may need, you know, enforcement of the laws. You know, every action, you know, have a consequence. You know, so if you do something instead of maybe just talking and maybe just give warnings, you know, then maybe some one of us, you know, might just be that public example. And when persons see, especially some persons who are quote unquote in the higher class, you know, is made an example. You know, persons may say, you know, if that person can get a ticket, if that person can this, if that person can this, well, what would be said of me? So I have to, you know, align myself, you know, whether I'm driving too fast, whether, you know, I'm driving recklessly, because people have to understand too, you know, you don't necessarily have to be driving fast to be driving recklessly. You could be driving maybe at 20 and you swerving all up and down the road, you know. So I sometimes people, I believe, you know, misunderstand, you know, driving recklessly.
Enforcement and penalties, two words obviously would come into this discussion if we are talking about management. You know, Webbo, sometimes in this little society that we live in, we have a lot a lot of situations where some would be fined, some would be penalized, and some won't be. That happens a lot because of the very close-knitted society that we live in. We tend to know everybody, and everybody knows you. Everybody knows the influence you have, and some people doesn't seem to have any influence at all. And the type of influence means a lot, really, to be quite honest. And so, in many cases, things are not enforced equally in a widespread kind of way. You know, the enforcers sometimes pick and choose, you know, who to apply the law, or the real might of the law too. And so we have a problem with that. I believe. I know a police officer who he's quite enthusiastic about his work, and he would enforce, yes, the law. Well, he does that to me, but I'm not sure if he does it to everyone. And he met me in the bank the other day, and he asked me if I am prepared to respect the yellow lines a lot more for 2025. And I said to him, yes, but I also expect you to have some discretion at times. And so we end up in a good conversation as it relates to enforcement and assuming responsibility. And I think sometimes this discussion means a lot, because it makes you come down to realize that you're not the only world user. There is the law, and there are times when you are creating a problem, and there are times when you're not. And that's where discussion comes in, and enforcement sometimes is delayed or put aside. But it's really about enforcement and being penalized for not obligating to the law. And so, yes, management will have to be a lot more stricter about to the agents that really interact with the public, and governments also will have to be more workable in terms of providing the necessary tools that laws can be enforced, because when I spoke to alcohol drinking, it's within that same conversation, and the officer said to me, yes, you're making a strong point, but we doesn't have the instrument to test for the level of alcohol in your body, and so there's no evidence to present in court. And so we just, even though he said to me that we can look at an individual and say, look, you are too drunk to drive, and we will not lock him up, let's use a lighter term. They would
Put him to rest a little bit.
put him to rest a little bit until he find himself in a better state to drive.
Years ago, you all remember Foy?
Yeah.
Yes.
When Foy was in charge of the Nevis Division. Or maybe when he was commissioner, I'm not sure, but he certainly was in a top position. And I had an interview with him. We have the tape somewhere here. And we had this conversation. That's why I said I've been around a while, been there, done that, heard that. And I remember the theme then, as it is now, was that we don't have the necessary resources and the fighting gear and the technological stuff, etc., etc., etc. And again, as I said, we have the tape somewhere. And I said, but commissioner or superintendent, whatever it was, what does the latest technological crime detection stuff have to do with a traffic violation in town? The answer, of course, is nothing really. The follow-up question was, how about we deal with those things that don't need those equipment and see where we go from there? Because indisciplined individuals will always cause small infringements and the large infringements. If we stop a small leak, the probability of that small leak coming big is very low. Correct?
True.
Yeah.
So just think about it. Imagine that a lot of the what we call small infringements that are taking place, what if we were to deal those, because those don't need the most technically advanced solutions, etc. What if the law says that the number plates must be affixed at a particular place on your vehicle? What if those were enforced? What if the laws say that you must have a certain color light, etc., etc., if those were enforced, etc., etc.? What if the fine for that infringement was so prohibitive? What if the persons who are the parliamentarians who are responsible to adjust those laws as it is required in terms of the society, what if that was done and then it is enforced? Now, to borrow something from an esteemed debater that I learned over the years, Edric W. Stanley. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Okay.
It comes from a long way, and assuming responsibility still is to me the high watermark of it all, because yes, you say parliamentarians and their subjects, even though we don't like to use that words, and that's where That's where things starts going wrong all the time.
No, I'm not trying.
Not blaming the parliamentarians.
I'm not trying to assign blame.
In a particular way.
I went into court one time to listen to a case now. The fellow was sued for maligning somebody's character. That's what the case was all about. And as the case went on, the judge found that the person was guilty. Now, remember, people are smart. They have a lot of smart lawyers and all that and stuff like that. And the judges normally go by precedent. So they will look at the case before, if there was one before, and how much was that person, the penalty was, etc., etc. And when the judge was about to hand the judgment down in terms of penalty, the person who was found guilty was jolly and happy and everything seemed. So I think the judge put down a evaluation in terms of cost of perhaps might have been 20 times what the precedent was. I think, or no, maybe 5 or 6 times, right? Whatever it was. And when he gave that, the guilty person cringed. And the judge gave the explanation. And he said, I gave that evaluation because from listening to the case, I am satisfied that Fifield deliberately maligned Naya because he was aware of roughly how much he will be charged. Perchance he is found guilty and he can easily pay it, and it will be worth the maligning that I did to him. And Naya and Fifield never spoke to one another until death did them part, because Naya had to part with a number of his resources to pay Fifield. So what the judge was doing is setting a deterrent, and to a large degree Fifield stop interfere with people. That makes sense?
Yeah.
That's why for my whole career, not on just show, on my show in the morning, the one that I prefer to do, I always preach and ask people, stop interfere with people. Person in trouble, you leave them alone.
Yes. Yes.
Because all you're gonna do when the necessary recompense, as my mother used to say, comes to you, you're going up and down and ball to everybody. Stop interfere with people. So the necessary punishment is one of the ways that you deal with things.
Assume responsibility, enforcement and penalties then.
Yeah, you whenever you have a particular issue to deal with, what you do, you assess and see what perhaps will get you the results. You're dealing with crossing a bridge. You analyze, what is necessary to be done so that you can safely or effectively cross the bridge. You don't just start going across. You analyze it, you assess it, and put what is necessary in place to be, successful. So if we just continue to have issues all the time and just keep talk to get no results, that's what we're going to do. Live at the complaint counter. No?
Yeah, but what you say to someone who is speeding at a high speed, where there is no road speeding limit?
They have roads that there is no speeding limit?
Yeah.
Where?
All over the place.
Where? Give me an example.
Going to Gingerland.
Who told you that?
I don't see none. I don't see no signs.
No, but that's a different thing that you're saying. You know, you say there's a difference between seeing a sign, right?
No legal speed limit.
Seeing the sign.
Add legal to it.
Yep. Seeing the sign does not suggest that there isn't a speed limit. And the drivers have a responsibility, do they not?
Yes. Well,
to whether they see a sign or not, to know what the speed limit in built-up areas and in cities are.
And school zones.
And school zones. Those signs are there as part of, to help and stuff like that and so on. But ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Not correct?
Sure.
yes, but where there is no built-up areas and school zones and so forth, what do you say?
No, but there's a simple thing you can do. I think the other morning, for instance, I heard on the traffic report here that the police said it might be general. It might say that the speed limit in the city or in the towns is 20 miles per hour, and outside of town is 40 miles per hour.
Okay.
Right? So the fact that a person does not know the law, the magistrate, the judge is going to tell you that is not an excuse.
Certainly.
And Fifield spoke about education earlier, and we must encourage our people to understand that.
Well, there's absolutely no regards of the law as it relates to the way I know, especially over in the sister island of St. Kitts, the bus drivers drive, to be quite honest, because they rush. They rush 40 miles an hour. I mean, they double that easy.
But let me ask you this. They rush
They
40 miles per hour. Let me ask you this. If you were a bus driver and you're hustling to make a daily living, that's fair, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You, Conrad Naya, if for 4 days out of the week you're rushing over the speed limit and you get 4 tickets for those 4 days, the 5th day, what do you think will happen?
You take it easy.
Okay.
Because most of your earnings in the first 2 days will be gone in the tickets.
Okay.
Good.
Enforcement and penalties that you spoke of, Naya, earlier.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I am the enforcer. Maybe I don't want to do it because I don't want Naya vexed with me either.
That's what I was saying. This close-knitted society where everybody knows everyone. Everyone is afraid to step on someone's toes.
Yeah, but maybe they can borrow and give me royalties. So what you do, you talk with them and you say, work with me now.
But at the same time, to Webbo, I believe that, even if I'm the enforcer and you and I, we get along good, I believe that if we get along that good, you should be able to respect my job, respect what I have to do, and if you can't respect that, then I'm not sure if you are my friend.
No, you're not realistic,
Uh-huh.
A person, when they got a friend, you see Trump and those fellas, and so what your friend is supposed to do is work with you. Your friend is supposed to take care of you better than he take care of the other fellow. Not correct? From a realistic standpoint?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is why I fail so much, because I can't tell lies. I have to present the truth, and the truth don't normally work.
You got to do your job. Assume responsibility. I mean, I see bus drivers driving and they have a bottle of beer in their lap.
And some sipping.
Some sipping and driving really fast. And
With
we get away with those things pretty easy. In the bigger countries, you can't be seen drinking and driving.
Okay, so is it fair for me to conclude that all of a sudden this engagement has proved that we don't have an insurmountable problem here? Correct? We don't have a problem where we need to go and add another 10, 15, 20 laws, correct?
True.
Okay. Let me take this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Well, blessed love to my brother Webbo and his host. How you doing?
We're doing good.
Thankful for the love of the Almighty creation. Now this is last time I speak with your brother Webbo. You had received the flyer?
Which flyer?
I bring a flyer there yesterday by the radio station for the bucket uprising ceremony for next week, Tuesday.
Oh.
So you can ask the young girl who was at the front desk if she remember of the flyer. I'll even give her a number so you could communicate if you need any information for when we communicate on the ground next week, Tuesday.
You gonna be on the ground next week, Tuesday?
Yeah, at the bucket uprising, so I will call in on your program.
Oh, okay.
Just after the event, I will call in on your program.
Okay, no problem. We're working with you.
All right, protect and keep you all safely with the love of the Almighty and the ancestors.
Okay.
Bless.
I thank you. Yes.
No need for more laws. We just dealing with a matter of enforcement, assuming responsibility, and also those who travel on these buses and things that doesn't seem to be safe should simply ask to be put off, really, and also losing money because of such behaviors would probably be the starting point at times to just do better, you know. And there I suppose speaks to, you know, assuming responsibility for yourself in these circumstances anyway.
Yeah, Webbo, I on the road, you know, Webbo, just one last thing about that, Webbo, that I have recognized is that right there at the bottom of at the junction, by the runabout by Long Point, you know, I find that well, there are cameras there. If they are functional, that's another topic. I really don't know, but you know, I driving on the road, there once or twice I almost rear in other vehicles because they stop, you know, in the middle of the roundabout for whatever reason, you know. And I think maybe that area probably needs to be policed more, because as I said, it happened to me at least 2 times that I almost ran into persons in the area because they actually stopped in the middle of the roundabout, you know. So I just thought I would say that, Webbo, I don't know if we can probably move on, Webbo. We know that Biden, you know, just before he left office, you know, he pardoned Marcus Messiah Garvey and, you know, the region, the leaders and of the region, and we as a people, I believe that we are really happy for that. Something that happened some over 100 years ago, that many persons thought that it was because of racial bias and politics, you know. So I believe that you know, we are more happy that Biden would have done that just before exiting the office. I don't know if Naya want to.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I wasn't aware of that, but if that was done That's a absolutely good gesture, and it's a perfect example of admitting the wrongs that's been done to the race, based on the ideals of racism.
Okay, just let me get this now. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening, gentlemen. Good show. Yeah, but before you move on, Webbo, I would just like to make a little input there with the driving and the drinking and stuff. I think we're gonna be seeing a lot more of that, a lot more driving and drinking and get an accident caused by drunken drivers, because if you listen to radio, any radio, I mean, you get up in the morning, you listen to radio. From Trinidad come right down to St. Kitts, Nevis, all the Caribbean islands. Most of the songs that you hear these days is based on drinking rum, drinking rum, ready rum. Is a lot of rum songs out there. So, and young people listen to these songs and they are going to be influenced with all these rum songs, and they're going to drink, and we're going to be getting in more accidents. So I see this. I don't think it's going to be going away anytime soon. So the police, they got their work cut out for them. But still, I'm praying and I'm hoping that people would be reasonable and just leave the rum alone. Okay? So that's my 2 cents for right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you. One of the things I would hope that we do, though, is get the actual data as to what is causing the accidents. Meaning, we have to solve them, do the investigation, solve them, and what was the cause, rather than always assuming. Because we do a lot of that around here. And even with the different crime and stuff like that, if we do the proper investigation and we find out the motive and all these things and so on, that's what they use for data to solve problems, right? And when I heard, for instance, that St. Kitts and Nevis had 1,800 accidents for last year, approximately 13 in St. Kitts and about 500 in Nevis, right? That's an astronomical figure. And I was interested, and I'm interested in knowing the breakdown. How many were, attributed to speed, to disobeying signs and things and so on. And I heard, for instance, one official asking drivers to pay attention to and give heed to the ambulances and these stuff and thing. One of the things about what you know about ambulances, whether you're a pedestrian or a driver and stuff like that, is what, Naya?
Well, they travel fast.
Right, not only that.
And they make noise.
Right, and what else in the night, for instance?
And they flash the lights.
Right.
They make you aware of their presence.
Right. But now everybody have flashing lights. You see, you have it as if it's a light moment.
Yeah.
People have everything as a joke. I had a friend recently come here, from, as Edric would say, another jurisdiction. And then the next morning he said to me, he said, man, I nearly get in an accident last night. I said, what? I see these flashing lights coming, I pull for cover and think it's the ambulance or something like that. You find it's just an ordinary vehicle. Just, and these things everybody knows. But all that everybody does is grumble. So until and unless, because I tell the truth, I'm persuaded that we like to complain.
Yeah, but if I tell Mr. Fifield that he shouldn't have those lights, Fifield's not going to just stoop and get on with his thing,
You mean you as Naya or you as an officer?
Me as Naya.
Okay.
He probably would listen more to an officer. But there are times the officer himself has his flashing lights too.
Well.
So
So
where do
then
we
what are we
start? Where do
bawling
we
about?
start?
What are we complaining for?
We complaining when people get hurt and killed,
Okay.
and people are suffering because of our actions or inactions, and so we always wonder if there is something missing, because if the lights affects the normal usage of the road, flashing lights, and we see police also have their own flashing lights, not on the public vehicle, on their personal vehicles at times, and some of the police are traveling in these vehicles with flashing lights. I mean, where do we really start? Are we looking for a more defined legislation, or something that in particular states the fact?
What legislation? You guys
What are we
keep telling
looking
me
for?
about you looking for legislation.
But what are we looking for,
They by
Webbo?
themselves do not solve any problem. How many times must I say it? They by themselves don't solve the problem.
At times,
Because I remember having the agriculture department folks here a long time ago, and they were dealing with this problem we still keep talking about, people roaming animals and so on and so forth. And the fellow who was in charge then, said that they like to call them, they have a term, roaming on something. And sometimes I just try and do my research when I'm doing my work, So they come and they say, what they're going to do, they're going to get some legislation for so. So I just pull out my stuff and say, they're ready. And they stop talking about it. And the problem continue to exist. So making legislation in itself does not solve the problem. My thing is, right, to get the problem themselves and just keep talking, to get no result. It makes no sense.
Webbo, sometimes you would ask for more defined, at times more umbrella legislation, because sometimes the interpretation of these legislation, I mean, the legislation might state ambulances and fire trucks, and not any vehicle, that would affect, the road usage, and sometimes where not all the enforcer doesn't really look at it in a purposive way. They probably just look at it as in a what can I say, word for word way,
Another song that I like to play is called Choices. And why I like to play this song, it's the author, the singer, was saying, the essence of the song is this. He says that from he was a boy, he liked drinking, and friends and everybody keep telling him about it, not to drink and the ills that it may cause, but he never bothered with them, and he continued, and the consequences now, he said, he is living with, and he says he is now living and dying with the choices he made, right? But that's not the best part about it, in my view. The best part about it, he says, I am living and dying with the choices I made. He took responsibility. Didn't go and then blame the family or whoever else. They should have tie his foot or his mouth or something. They spoke, and then he said, well, I took responsibility. So we can't just keep complaining. People do what they have to do. They try to get us to do, and so on. You have to take some responsibility. Again, the other thing that I like is this Nike mantra. Just do it. Just give me set an excuse. My staff could always tell you that something ain't done or whatever, and they give me a set of excuse, or so and so that I late because so and so, and I listen to them, hear them out, and then I say, okay, come early tomorrow.
Just do it.
Yeah, you're telling me, come early tomorrow.
You know, Webbo, I believe that persons, as the songwriter said in song, if persons are to take more personal responsibilities, I believe that our society could be a better one. We have to recognize when we do wrong, when we go astray, and pull back ourselves, and take the responsibility, because as you rightfully said, nobody is expected to cover that person's mouth, to handcuff them, for them not to lift up a bottle of liquor to put to their mouth and stuff like that. We have to understand, and if we decide we're going to maybe continue to drink, and maybe something wrong with our liver because as a result of drinking, then we have to live and die with the choices we indeed make. And these are things that we as individuals have to understand. And if we can do that, if we make the choice to speed on the road, and we run after the road, and we can injure, something happen fatally, then we may have to go to jail for the rest of our life. That the choice we made was to speed and probably drive recklessly. And that's the choice, and the consequence now, according to the court of law, might be life in prison. And it may be harsh, it may sound harsh, because nobody, I believe, on the road, none of us on the road, I believe, would want to intentionally, cause, fatal injury to anybody else, or even any kind of injury. But that is what could happen when we drive recklessly, and we drive at such high speeds.
Let me take this, Fifield. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. You're on the air.
This is Mavis Price calling in.
Yeah.
I want to weigh in on the accident situation that is sharing some experience. Well, I lived in Indonesia for a year, and I would have been in Indonesia riding motorcycle, being a passenger on a motorcycle, and it's like thousands neck to neck on the road and so on. But what you understood about that motorcycle for the Indonesians was that it was the daily bread for the family. It was the only means of transport to get to and from. So sometimes you see a family of 5 on a motorcycle. And when you hear so many accidents here, and then they can record in a certain area between thousands of motorbikes, no accidents. This is very alarming. But it means that we're not respecting our vehicles. We're not giving the vehicles the respect that is due them. One, it costs a lot of money for us to get it. That's one. 2, it's the means of getting to and from work punctually. It's the difference between what our salary will be in some or will not be as a bus driver. Another thing that is happening here is a sense of entitlement. Children are leaving sixth form, going out to work, and in my estimation, no person needs it far, because once upon a time people used to walk from town to Brickell just to get a girlfriend, just to find a woman to talk through the window and then come back to town. But now parents giving their child a car when bus running. They're paying out of their pocket to get a car for that 18 or 19-year-old so that they can go to work. The child did not bear the cost of that. It's just a tool for them to have fun. They are still on an adrenaline rush, and that's a problem. So it's our integrity as persons. How do we view life? How do we view what we are doing in terms of drinking and the driving? What are the consequences? Our critical thinking skills. And these are the things that we have to look at personally and individually, because it's the man in the mirror. It's the man in the mirror who is responsible for the choice that was made. Another thing is enforcement. Enforcement. And stop looking to Godfather to solve something. When Mary get it at $5 and Peter get the consequence at $75, irregardless of what precedent may be, just because whoever knows the person, that's the Godfather syndrome that we need to get out of. Yes, complaining. When are we going to get proactive? When are we going to say it's not about them, but it's really about us as citizens? Every little bit would make a difference. If your child or your adult live in your house, it's your child who is an adult, live in your house, come home, reeking of alcohol with the keys, you tell them put the car keys down there, and they get going until a consequence. It starts with our family, and after the family would have been helping, then we can go out into the broader society. But if we're not parenting the children, well, old people say, the system would parent them. That is my contribution.
All right, thank you.
Well, I think that the caller would have made some, real valuable points in my opinion, and it's really food for thought. Do we respect our vehicles? Do we respect ourselves? Do we understand the costs for the vehicle? And maybe some persons really and truly don't, because as the caller alluded to, some persons with vehicles, they never pay a penny for the vehicle. Sometimes it's vehicles that the parents might have bought for them for whatever reason. Sometimes it might even be a rental, so they don't understand how much one would have to toil, the sweat and tears and the sacrifice that one have to go through in order to get a vehicle, to be an owner of a vehicle. And then what happens, even if it is not something fatal, but what happens when that car gets in an accident? What happens to your insurance? It goes up. What happens? The costs come into play to fix that vehicle. Whereas you might have wanted to maybe take a vacation, you might have wanted to do other thing, maybe buy a gift, but that cost that you now have to incur because of that accident, that those monies are gone elsewhere. The salary in local parlance, it is your hoe in terms of the taxi drivers, in terms of the bus drivers. Your bus, your van, it is, as the old people will say, it is your hoe. And if you have something that is allowing you to make money for yourself and your family, take care of it, service it, take care of it, do not abuse it. Nowadays persons, especially in the bus service, if you have a beat up bus in St. Kitts and Nevis, persons may not want to necessarily go on your bus because it is beat up. But because you probably beat it up, you may not have the money to repair it the way that it ought to be repaired to look in a particular manner. So take care of your hoe. She spoke to parents probably buying vehicles to give their children who might have just stayed out of school and stuff. and the adrenaline running high and stuff like that. And that could be a point. I'm not saying it's not a point, but the question that I want to ask, if that is so, should we look at increasing the age for one to get a driver's license? Maybe from 18, maybe to 21 perhaps. These are questions, and as you would have said, Webbo, some investigation need to happen before all of this could be done. Who are getting into accidents? It's drivers between a particular age, let's say from 18 to 25, from 25 to 30, from 30 upwards, and then when you would have all this data put together, if we find that, maybe it is a lower age group, persons between the ages of 18 to 25 or 18 to 20, then you may want to reconsider and, look at your laws that are on your book and maybe, increase the age. And I know a lot of persons are listening and, might, want to know what I'm saying, especially the younger ones. But these are things after thorough investigation, we come up because we want to make, proper recommendation and put certain things in place that would, reduce accidents. Is it clearer signage? Is it that the written tests, should be a little more, quote unquote, challenging? I don't want to say difficult, challenging. Is it that the physical road tests also need to be a little more challenging, under certain different situations and stuff? Well, if I may, I can recall many years ago when I went for my driver's license, I was coming up by the Methodist Church, for those of us who are familiar with Charleston, to come across by the preparatory school. The instructor then coming up, he said that he's going to give me an emergency stop. So I can recall, coming across by the school, the instructor said stop. So I put out my hand, and I stopped, and then, he said to me, so if a child had run across, you're not on a child. So I said no, I would have hold my brakes. But, I didn't recognize that he was giving me an emergency stop. And I can recall going down the bakery road now, because that was once a two-way before it now be a one-way. And going down the bakery road, I can remember the instructor said, stop. And Webbo, I stopped that car one time and the car didn't cut out. Clutch and brakes. And the officer went like this, for those of you who are viewing. And all he said, good. Much better. So, Webbo, I'm just sharing this, because these are things that should come with you from the theoretical part, what you do when an ambulance is coming, emergency vehicle is coming, universally we know that anything with blue lights is police. So back to what Naya was saying, and might be jumping up on here and there, as Naya would have said too, but back to what Naya was saying, even if you see a private vehicle with a blue lights, that should tell you give way to that vehicle. Yes, it may not be a government-owned vehicle, but I'm subjected to correction to this, but I want to believe that there are certain ranks in the police force that possibly are authorized to use such lights on their personal vehicles. And as I said, this is subjected to correction, but the point I am making, the real point I'm making, if you see these type of lights, and that is why we have to enforce, and ordinary persons like me and you, do not have blue lights on your vehicles. These are reserved, for the police, and not just for anybody who so desire to use them. And it's like Webbo. If I go down the road and you see a police, doing something, contrary to the law, what are you going to do? You're going to lock him up? You're going to report him?
You can lock him up too.
Well, I guess there's those type of arrests, but I don't think I would. What I would prefer to do is to report him, and this is what I'm saying. If you see a vehicle passing with flashing blue lights, and you recognize that you get the number, you can, tell, go to the police. Look, I see a particular vehicle with P whatever, PA whatever with blue flashing lights, and it probably almost make me run after you or whatever. They should do necessary investigations. So yes, Webbo, back to the caller. I believe that she made some really valid points in my opinion, and really food for thought, as I said earlier. And I think that we should at least consider what she said if we want to be safe on the roads.
Anybody is of the view that the world as a whole is at a crossroad. In other words, it's like seismic changes.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody
Yes.
of the view?
I'm of that view. The question is whether or not it should be at that point, but certainly I'm at that view, and I welcome a lot of the changes that are taking place as well, because one would look at the world prior to, say, 2025 as a place of real problems globally, and so changes, yes, and I think a lot of people sometimes are willing to even take a chance with the unknown, and that is when things seems to really strike you as better must come, but people are asking and wants to see better, and they are, as I say, willing to take a chance. I can see that happening. I mean, there's this major growth in nationalism. There's this major across Europe, and with the new president in America, and they are referred to as far right, and you wonder if, I mean, to be honest with you, I personally can understand it. But it's not really conducive to how I think the world should be, or it's meant to be, really, because the Bible says the earth is the Lord and the fullness there is. And so, when I can't go to America, or the people in Europe only wants to see white people, to me it's a deprivation of what ought to be, really. Donald Trump is going to teach us quite a lesson as it relates to people in America. We speak towards people who like to go to America, go born their child. That child won't be an American citizen. Of course, these things can be challenged, and they will be challenged. That is, I was told, unconstitutional in America, and so forth. I mean, Donald Trump has pardoned 1,500 of the January 6th rioters. The question is whether or not he should have or he should not have. The question also would be asked whether or not these people had a fair hearing, because to me, if one did not, then all did not, and it looks to me like it is evidence. Evidence can be brought forward to show that there are some who just did not get a fair trial. And so he is, to me, basically making good of his promises. He referred to these people as hostages. We are dealing with a different kind of person, a different kind of perception, and he seems to, in the 4 years that he intends to be the president, he intends to change things drastically, not just in America, but in areas that he seems to have interest, Mexico, Panama, Canada, Greenland, and various places. And so the world, yes, is going through serious changes, interesting stuff, very, very interesting. Because as it relates to Greenland, there are 2/3 of the people in Greenland who wants to be Americanized, but there are that 1/3 who wants to remain under the authority of who they under now. One of those European countries, the Holland. I beg to be corrected there, but I think yes, the world is at. Look at the war, the Gaza war.
What I find is interesting in that, I was making some notations, and it is not as simple as that. But one of the components of it is, one of the big things is getting back the hostages.
Yeah.
A couple of hundred of them maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a report, had a count, that in the process that killed over 50,000 people.
Yeah.
And you wonder, I don't get it, I'm missing something.
You're not missing nothing.
I'm not missing anything. And it's as if you will kill 50,000 more because I want back these 100 people.
Yeah, yes.
Wow.
That's
Similarly, what I can wrap my head around, because remember, sometimes I'm dense. When you had Gaddafi and these guys and so, millions of people for this one clown.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
True.
And I can't get it.
Well, you have to get it, and that's why I'm saying changes seems to be necessary. That concept of supporting regardless of what,
and I had
must be set aside.
I had a discussion with a gentleman today, and one of the things we were discussing is that it wasn't so much that it wasn't, this 2-tier or 3-tier justice. It's just exposed.
Yes.
But it's exposed to some degree. I heard one commentator now say, and we discussed it here before, they got something called vigilante justice. If we don't rein and correct that thing that we're having, you will end up there. Because when only seemingly the well-connected and stuff like that and so on can do things and get away and stuff like that, and when the court behave in such an unseemly manner and stuff like that, the question is, where will it end? These, to me, are the realities that you're facing.
That's what we call the system, Webbo. And resisting against the system is what Bob Marley call it. Things that are blatantly in your face, absolutely wrong, and it's the norm. It's the norm. And so certain people would make sacrifice, certain people would live a life in protest. I mean, my good friend, I've said that Biden pardoned Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey said he could have been one of those Jamaicans who were affluent, but he chose this way, and he suffers because he was really about liberating people, teaching people of their right, and trying to expose the system. And he find himself in Atlanta's jail many times with some serious charges, and it took over 100 years for those charges to be seen as racially motivated.
And political.
You know, and so this is what we are talking about. And that's why some people would not really say they are antisocial, but they are really rebels, as a, you know, because they would not conform to the norm, because the norm is based on serious inequality and injustice, and sometimes, you know, classification of people, and therefore the masses really suffers, who are usually the bulk of the people who basically being led by this class of people who enjoy this type of leverage on the people. And so that is the image that Trump was able to attract, that he is that type of liberator. And I think he was successful in marketing himself in a political way to get that serious victory that he got in America.
You know, Webbo, Naya, Trump has won the presidency, and it's as soon as he got in the seat, you know, a number of things has happened. He has signed a number of orders. One such, you know, the order to rescind what President Biden would have done hours before, in terms of, you know, he put in, you know, Cuba back on the list as a sponsor of terrorists, you know. And when you really look at it and the outer world look at it, and we look at America as, you know, the leader of the free world, to see one president, you know, to take Cuba in this instance, you know, off of the list of countries that sponsor terrorists, and in a matter of hours, a president, you know, coming in and putting the same country that was taken off by America, you know, back on. I mean,
it shows that America is not really the leader of no free world. That is a concept of the past. It's not the leader of the free world, because the Americans, even today, Trump and Biden, they are fully and blindly in support of Israel, regardless of what they do to the people up there. You know, of course, you know, the October 7th thing was what it was. Really bad gesture by Hamas, but look at what's been happening before: the breach of international law, the disregard of the world by the occupation of the Palestinian lands by the Israel people. But no, America stands by Israel, and so to me, America is no leader of no free world anymore. You know. And I think Trump, even Trump have really decided not to be, it seems like, because as it relates to NATO, he wants everybody to pay up. He don't want America to stand out as the major contributor anymore, you know. So he thinks you know, he can make America great again by stop policing the world, and a kind of inward-looking idea that would, of course, and he probably will achieve that. He's probably correct, you know. Reserving America wealth and might for the preservation and the development of America and Americans. And the majority, it seems like, in America, they give him the overwhelming mandate to do exactly that.
Yes.
Yeah, but is a view, our perception, that is different, because it's like seeing the big picture. And a person, for instance, I have this quotation that I like to say: give and take. but give more than you take. And I have some good debates with people telling me that I'm silly. How could you give more than you take? If you give more than you take, what is that going to tell you? You end up in the red.
Yeah.
Okay. That person who argues that is also going to argue with the person or the man who said it is more blessed to give than to receive. When I tell people walk with me, someone called in one night and he said, but you gotta walk with me too. He was shocked to learn that implied in my request when I asked you to walk with me, I was already had the commitment and already working with you. So if you make a commitment to walk with me, you are already ahead. So when you, as a country, as a person of a nation, figure that you must keep what you have to yourself because those poor people over there only come looking for things and stuff like that, you're losing. You give people stuff and you argue, nobody will give me nothing, then I'll give me nothing, then they'll give me back nothing. That's not how blessings go.
Sure.
So Naya gave me and took care of me last week. Then when I looked 5 feet short and he brought something that I wanted, that could be as a consequence of what I did for Naya. Maybe Naya didn't have what 5 feet brought. So that is what it is, Naya. The concept is different. The outlook is different.
That's true.
And just the last point. And I make the point all the time that sometimes the strong must help the weak. The strong help the weak together will make it true. Sometimes you figure that because you're so powerful and all that, you take advantage of people. Don't do that. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, hello. Webbo?
Yes.
Hi. Yes. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
I was just listening to you talking there about the changes that Donald Trump is instituting. First of all, I just want to say that Denmark is the country that Greenland belongs to.
Yes.
Iceland is also another one. Apparently, the Vikings in ancient times settled those islands, those countries.
Yes.
But I think that my feeling is that at some point there's going to be a crisis during the time that Donald Trump is in office. So I think that it's going to be a dollar crisis. It's going to be a financial crisis because central banks around the world are buying an inordinate amount of gold. And it's been going on for some time. The price of gold last year was about 1900 US back in August of 2023. And now it's gone as high as, $2,800. And they're just buying up all the gold, and I think they're getting ready for some sort of crisis and with the US dollar, and that's why they're doing that. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents. I think that I wanted to share that with you.
Okay. All right, thanks, man.
Okay.
Yes.
You're welcome. Take care.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
Naya.
Oh, well, the thoughts have drifted. But
That's okay. Let's drift to 5 field.
Yes, Webbo, a lot of pundits would agree with the call a while ago, Webbo, in terms of some sort of financial crisis. But I hope within the next 4 years that President Donald Trump and his advisors, would quote unquote wise up and see, what some persons, are seeing, and that we don't come to that, financial crisis. Every time there's a financial crisis, we here in the small islands, we feel it, and our economy is, is back on the rise, after COVID, and it is what, 5 years, 4 years on, and for another 4 years of Trump, if that were to happen in terms of the financial crisis, I think it would be too soon. So we just got to hope and pray.
Yes, but I'm not preaching doom with Trump.
I'm not either.
He can probably change things in a more positive way throughout the world, to be quite honest with you.
And in my opinion, he has started in certain things.
Such as?
There are two genders.
Oh,
he and she.
You gotta be careful there. But they are the they them. You know the they them? The they them of those who are not
binary,
not man nor woman. But yes, I mean, that must be looked at in a serious way. Under Obama, he's the one who legalized that a man can marry a man and a woman can marry a woman and all that type of stuff. But what Trump has said, there are two genders, and what I just said does not really contradicts that, and of course people are people regardless.
That's true.
But true, there are truly no in between. They are either a man or a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And we realize today we are of a Christian society, and if we are, then you would remember that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed according to the Bible, in which we place such beliefs, and therefore it is not godly when the in between find themselves on the scene, and so as I said, it's not doom and gloom because of Trump and his intention, but it is obviously a change which may bring a better world, and I suppose we all will welcome that. And of course you got to treat your people good so that you can treat others good as well. He's an individual that seems to have high regards for, or have good intention for, the middle class, and of course that makes me feel good, because the more we move to a classless society,
mm-hmm.
the more equality become present, and equal opportunity become present, and the world will be a better place. Honestly, that concept of classless society, and these are just words, because Trump himself believes he's a top notch, and he believes those who have money, as he surrounds himself with the richest people in the world, are those people who are supposed to run the world. And therefore, but it's still very comforting knowing that he was able to evoke the power of the middle class, the working class, and gain such victory. I think here in our little federation, politicians and those who are in power should pay serious attention to that, serious attention. And the process of victimization seems to eliminate a lot of possibilities, and so we got to do better here as well.
Well, but one of the things that President Trump would have done too is that government workers, would no longer be working from the comfort of their homes. They now have to go back in the offices, and it appears as if that a lot of workers who were working from the comfort of their homes, are now having some sort of discomfort, going back to the office. And this, I think, to Webbo, would probably spill over, so to speak, to the private sector, where persons, probably working from home and stuff like that. So it's all left to be seen, and I think that we are really at a crossroad, and it's really interesting times ahead.
That's the last word. Conrad Nye Liebert, Roger Fifield. This program repeats tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work, a place where you can spend all of your evenings right here in the Eastern Caribbean Spa House. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the News Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.